Human Radio.
Yeah, it was nice. Quiet, you know. Yeah, what about yours? Well, it would be, wouldn't it, in your mansion? No, I'm not being like that. No. But anyway, I'm glad it was... I do like the new single, though. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you left the panpipes off. I know, but John would put panpipes in absolutely anything, wouldn't he? I know. He's an idiot. Anyway, I've got to go. I've got to go, Gary. Anyway, right, love to the Tubeway Army. All right, mate. Speak soon. All right. Here we are. Oh, hello. Hello, how are you? Sorry, I was just
all right.
Just going to chat.
Hey.
Who was that?
It was just my old mate Gary Newman. He's
oh God, not again.
Honestly, he does go on. He's got a new single out. I don't know if you've heard it, but it's actually very good. Intruder. Yeah. It's very good.
Someone's painted on his face, haven't they? There's 3 stripes down his face.
They have. I don't think he intentionally did that. That was doing face painting with his kids, and he forgot about it, and then did the video. So I think he's slightly embarrassed about that, really.
I would be.
But I'm glad he left the panpipes on. John Hopkins isn't always right. He sticks panpipes on anything. But anyway, there we are. I hope everybody had a lovely Christmas.
And here's me thinking season 2 might bring a new sort of some new themes or something. No. But we're clinging on to the panpipes.
Yeah, clinging on to the panpipes and Gary Newman. That's it. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it is season 2, episode 1. Andy, how exciting is this?
I know, it's very Netflix. It's very makes it sound grander than it is. I was thinking today of all the changes that we haven't made for the new season. So it's pretty much the same. It's just a new way of cataloguing things, isn't it?
It is, and it's in a different year, and it's just another depressing period in a different year. So yeah, it'll be fine. Yeah, be absolutely fine. But to brighten up the evening, Andy. See you later, arpeggiator. He's an only human hero. Who have we got?
We've got Platform Zero, Mr. David Hughes. I am absolutely chuffed to bits to have David on tonight. It's taken a couple of asks, but he's here. And it is Mr. Arpeggiator himself. So, good evening, David. You okay?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thank you. As well as can be expected in the circumstances. Obviously, it's a bit of an odd time for most of us at the moment, but yeah, burring up sort of thing.
Great time
Excellent.
For making
music. Did you hear David, did you hear the Christmas theme tune? Did you hear your nod?
Yes, I did. It took me a while to get around to listening to it, to be honest, but when I did, and when you further on explained that you'd put in that kind of reference to me. I did blush a bit, to be honest, yeah.
Well, you are an only human hero, and we have... How many songs of yours we've had on the show so far, David? We must have had half a dozen, I think, have we?
I don't really know off the top of my head.
What, you don't count? You haven't got a list of when they happened and... Well, no, obviously not. No.
And Andy's got a tape cassette of each of the shows, so we can send you one of those over so you can re-listen.
Yeah, David's not into cassettes, are you, David?
Well,
there's a sudden pause there.
I don't know. I mean, the thing is, I'd be more likely to get into cassettes if I actually had some means to play them on. But
right,
that would help. Yeah, that would help.
I don't even have a CD player, these days, to be honest.
I hope you don't mind me saying, David, but David messaged me to say that he was, there was a collection of his tunes on Bandcamp for the first time. So I messaged him back, keen as mustard. I can stick it on cassette for you if you like. And David came back and goes, I don't really get the cassette thing.
See that?
So I was like, oh,
I think that's our age, Andy. Showing through.
Yeah, I think it is.
I'm afraid.
Yeah.
The old classic top 40. Press play and record on the cassette player just at the point where the DJ stops speaking. So yeah.
I used to put a cassette recorder in front of Top of the Pops and record my favourite hits from Top of the Pops. Anyway, that's really aging me. But anyway, let's move on.
Well, indeed, and well, again, Andy, you've put together an amazing selection of music tonight. I know we say that every single time, but we were all just talking before we started recording the show, and we were all just saying there really are some absolute gems in here tonight, and there's a couple in particular that really stand out, and you'll see them as soon as you hear it. You'll go, "Oh yeah, that's one of them."
Do you know? Every time we do this show, what I want is for there to be a theme, so I can say, "Oh, it's very synthy tonight," or "It's very this," or "It's very that," and just when I think that's what I'm going to say the show is tonight, then I think, oh no, but that one doesn't fit. That one doesn't quite fit that. So once again, it's very eclectic and very, very joyful sort of selection from our community.
Joyful brilliant. Is the word. So what have we got coming up first then?
We've got our mate, Rob Dixon, Etchasketch. He's do you want me to do the whole list, or shall I just tell you what's coming up first?
Tell you what, let's talk about the first one first, and then we'll keep the other surprises as we go along.
Let's change the format.
Yeah.
Season 2. Right. So the first tune is Rob Dixon as Etchasketch. It's a slightly different tune from Rob though, because it's not a modular piece.
Was this on the tracker?
Yeah, the PULS8 tracker. And I know he's been producing quite a bit of music on this. So I think, for all intents and purposes, it's a sampler.
Yeah.
But it's got some very powerful editing tools on there. So stuttering and slicing, and you can do all sorts with the sample. And this has been created on his PULS8 tracker.
Right. Okay. And so you've had a listen to this as well, David, haven't you?
It's well. Given what Andy was just saying, that kind of makes a lot of sense, because one of the things that I did note about this was it sort of sounded quite different from the sort of things I've come to expect from Rob, you know. How do you sort of say, like, obviously, like, with his sort of modular compositions, it's a bit more free-form and evolving and improvised, whereas this was a sort of bit more sort of tightly structured, I would say, you know?
I'd agree with that. And I
think you've hit the nail on the head there, yeah.
Because I think, Andy, didn't he sample in the modular gear into the poly end and then chopped it up and sequenced it within there, I think?
What he's been trying to do is, I think he's sort of trying to become disciplined in an instrument other than his modular. So I think he wanted to spend, because he does have a reputation for quite quickly turning gear round. And without dwelling on that too much, I think what he wanted to do, I think I'm right. He wanted to sort of get something that wasn't modular and spend a bit of time with it, and do something slightly not out of his comfort zone as such, but just something different.
Yeah. And he did send me a message the other day saying he's not sure if the PULS8 tracker's a keeper. And having listened to this song, I would say it should be a keeper.
Yeah. I think it would be a great idea if he carried on sort of like with making tandem sort of sounds, because like David said, we've come to know him for his sort of dark ambient stuff.
Yeah.
But this is a lot more beatsy. This is a bit more upbeat, you know, and it's sort of it's a different flavour from him, and it's just as great as the other stuff that he comes out with.
Absolutely. So before we flick it on, is there anything else you want to add to this, David?
One thing that I kind of thought was that, I don't know if it's just me, I might be completely like, this might be a bit of a misguided observation to make, I'm not entirely certain, but the bass line on this sort of sounded a bit kind of drum and bassy to me, in a way. Do you know?
Yeah. It's sort of kind of, yes, I know it kind of rumbles under, but it weaves in and out. Yes, I know what you mean.
And there's a really nice change. If you listen at about 1 minute 40, there's quite an unusual step change in the whole song, and it takes a slightly different direction, which is a really nice little sort of a sudden diversion from where I thought it was going anyway, and all of a sudden it turns this corner into something slightly different than I was originally anticipated. Anyway, should we have a listen, and then we can let everybody else decide as well. Okay, so this is Etchasketch, Spicy Whirl.
Only Human Radio.
Wow, that was Etchasketch, Spicy Whirl. That really is a very different style of tune than we've heard from Rob before, isn't it?
It's a great way to start the show as well. I think that it was seeing as we are completely changed the format of the show, then it's good. It's good to start off with something with a little bit of pace.
It is.
So yeah, absolutely fantastic. Great way to start the show. I told Rob that we were going to use it to kick off the new season, and I think he wholeheartedly agreed that it was a good tune to start to kick off everything again.
Yeah, well, I'd vote for a lot more of that sort of stuff from Rob. As much as I enjoy his other stuff, that's great, but I really, really enjoyed this. It was brilliant.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay, so coming up next, this is a really quite unusual song actually. You picked out here.
Yeah, this is as usual. If somebody wants to contact us and they want us to play one of their tunes, then we will always do our best to fit it in. And this is one of those tunes. A guy called Found Object, a guy called Pete, and it's a tune called Sakamoto. He contacted us. I think he's from down Leicester way, but there's an association with him with Martin Christie and him. So I think I think Martin might have put him onto our show, or he's heard the show because of Martin. Because I know Martin promoted it a bit around Christmas. So he's got hold of our email address via Martin Christie. So fired it over, and naturally, as promised, we're going to stick it on.
And it is a great tune. I mean, as I say, it is a little unusual, but I liked it. And it's got that chiptune-y type of feel about the whole thing again.
David, did you read the bump I sent over about it?
Yeah, I did. Well, I was going to say, when I first heard this the other day, for the benefit of the listeners, I messaged Andy and Jules like pretty much straight away to just ask like, who is this found object guy? Because I was really taken with it. I just loved it. Shall we just say like it very much appeals to my sensibilities, and Andy sent me some information about the guy that had made it, and I was kind of a bit sort of surprised to see that he's, if I remember correctly, made all of this, that he pretty much like makes all of his music just on an app on his iPhone, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
really? Or perhaps on an iPad. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was an iPad, wasn't it? It's a program called Beatwave, which I've never heard of. So I thought, right, I'm going to get my hands on that, because I really, like David, I really like some of the sounds, and it's all come from one app.
Right.
But then I saw it was £7.99 a month, and I thought, nah.
Ridiculous money for a fantastic musical instrument. It's not 99p. I'm not having it.
I might just
£7.99.
I know exactly. If it's not 99p, you can forget it.
Yeah.
I might just try.
David.
I might just try and look up what he said. I've got it somewhere here in my message history. I found the thing I was looking for. There was just one detail that he'd put in this description that made me laugh, where he said like, it's quite an unstable app, but it works okay most of the time.
That's what you want in your music making device. Bit of instability.
Yeah.
Well, speaking as somebody who pretty much like does all of his work on a PC, I can't really comprehend like working, mostly on a mobile device. I have like tried, there's like a sort of version of FL Studio that you can get for Android and various other things similar to that, which I tried using a bit, but I couldn't really sort of do serious work using them. Like,
it does seem like a constricted environment, doesn't it, to try and work within? Or is it just me?
Although like, I can sort of see the attraction of that in a way, in that, sometimes if you're using like a modern piece of software, you perhaps just have too many toys to play with.
Anyway, I tell you what, shall we have a listen to the tune? So this is...
Yeah, let's have a listen.
It is a great, really interesting tune. So this is Found Object. This is Sakamoto. It was Found Objects, Sakamoto. If anybody wants to see any more, do you know? Is there any Bandcamp places or anything like that they can look at more stuff from Found Object, Andy?
Yeah. There's a Bandcamp page.
Right.
In the message that he sent across, he said that he did start off by posting some stuff on SoundCloud, less so now. So if you want to see his latest stuff, then head over to Bandcamp. I think they're sort of single tunes. They're like singles rather than albums.
Right.
So when you get there, you'll see tiles for individual tunes. This is his latest one, Sakamoto. It's the one that he posted most recently.
Yeah, and it's great. So yeah, thank you very much for sending that in. And again, if anybody wants to send in their tune, we would be absolutely delighted to have a listen to it and to play it. So if you want to send it in, onlyhumanradio@gmail.com, Andy?
onlyhumanradio@gmail.com. Drop us a line, and we will always find a slot for your music.
Absolutely. And coming up next, well, it is indeed the See You Later Arpeggiator is Only Human Hero. It's yours, David. We're coming up with your tune. So, Andy, listen, I'm going to butt out a little bit here. So, do you want to do Gear Geek now? Do you want to do it after we've played David's song?
No. We'll do it. We'll play David's tune, okay. And then we'll do Gear Geek after we've heard David's tune.
Right. I'm going to let you quiz David on his song first. I'm just going to look at my notes on it again.
Right. Okay. So, David, Reality Construct. Is this off your new album?
Yeah. Although. Reality Construct isn't the name of this tune. Reality Construct was the name of the album.
Oh, hell!
Oh, is this 05
What's
Firmament?
the name of the song?
Okay, this was called Firmament Part 4. The title is a bit of a homage to, Jean-Michel Jarre's habit of not actually making up names for individual tracks. And to be honest, I got bored of having to try and make up names for each individual track that I did. It sort of saved me a bit of effort in that regard.
That's my favourite bit. I love making up the name of the song. This is so relevant, but it's got nothing to do with David's tune. All the tunes that Rob makes on the Poly-N tracker. Did you know that the Poly-N tracker actually names the song?
No.
So there's a little generator inside. So when you've saved it, it will give it a name.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So the name Spicy Whirl for Rob's tune actually was generated by the Poly-N tracker itself.
That's superb. That's just brilliant.
Yeah. Sorry, David.
Yeah, no worries. Where were we?
So, we were talking about Firmament Part 4.
Yes.
I've put it simple, it's clean, and it's ace. And even though it's not covered in your typical wonderful key changes and arpeggios, there is still that element, and there's still those wonderful key changes in there that everybody is such a big fan of yours. David, can I ask you, this is a question I've always wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I should ask people this question, but what are your influences? What would you say is your sort of on your playlist? What do you think is influencing the music that you're making?
Well, this is a question that I sort of find a bit difficult to answer sometimes because I
shouldn't ask it really.
No, it's fine. I will attempt to give you an answer. I mean, a lot of my influences are probably reasonably obvious ones. Like, I've always tended to listen to electronic music-wise a lot of stuff like Jarre, Kraftwerk, OMD, and so on. I don't know if you recall that thing in the Only Human group on Facebook the other week where there was a bit of discussion about what everybody's favourite synth albums were, and I sort of found myself thinking like, mine are very similar to everybody else's, which is cool in a way, but it also sort of worried me slightly. If that makes sense. Well, sometimes I kind of worry a bit like that. Well, sometimes I kind of think it's perhaps more desirable to have people listening to like a diverse range of stuff. Although I suspect that we all do. But, I don't know if I'm making any sense here.
No, you're making perfect sense. Did you feel it was a bit generic?
Well, I'm not...
A bit typical of synth people.
Perhaps, although that sounds a bit judgmental. I don't know. Sorry, maybe.
Help yourself. You're fine on here. I think for me, the sort of what you capture is sort of the OMD. They're beautiful. The sounds of OMD and the chord changes of that particular area. It's very sort of. It sort of rings with that sort of era for me. Whether that's deliberate or not, I'm not sure. But a lot of music from when I was discovering synthesizer and synthesizer pop music, synth pop music, then you press a lot of those kind of lovely buttons from when I used to hear that sort of music for the first time.
Well, that's an interesting question about it being deliberate, because a lot of the time it is just a matter of me sort of sitting down to work, and I might vaguely have some sort of idea, or an idea might kind of emerge as I sort of experiment, but
yeah,
it's very often just a matter of sort of experimenting with various things, and when I come up with something that I kind of like, I will sort of, save that, try to work with it and develop it, and sometimes that's a process that goes on for absolutely ages. Sometimes it's like, something I'll have turned around in a shorter period of time.
How long does it take you to write a song, David?
Well, it very much depends. With this one I think I mostly probably had it kind of finished or close to finished within like a couple of days, which is unusual for me. Because I think I just sort of started noodling around with my keyboard like after one morning after I'd done a night shift, and I was probably a bit tired, and I came up with this melody that I quite liked and thought like, I can work with that, and probably added some arpeggiators and some pads and so on in until I kind of got to a point where I felt like it was, serviceable.
I think it's a bit more than serviceable.
Well, yeah, I mean,
you're doing yourself a bit of a disservice there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was very pleased with how this one turned out, and it was one of those occasions where I felt like everything sort of fell into place quite easily for once.
You over the sort of period of time that I've known you and been listening to your music, you quite regularly will say something along the lines of that you've got quite a catalogue of unfinished tunes. Is that still the case?
Yes, I'm afraid so. A couple of weeks ago, I upgraded my computer, put a new SSD in, which involved me sort of having to migrate a load of stuff, across from the old hard drive, and I kind of thought to myself afterwards, so this will be a good opportunity to kind of sort through your archive of unfinished things and to sort of try and work out what to keep, what you might finish, and to sort of like, be a bit ruthless and discard things that you're probably realistically never going to use. But I started this task, but got about maybe halfway through my folder of unfinished projects, and then sort of just started feeling a bit overwhelmed by it and kind of thought like, no, just leave it alone for the moment. That's the problem that I am having. Yeah,
that sounds like my box of cables. I've got SCART leads in there from about 20 years ago. You'd never know. I might use that one day, so I'll just hang on to it.
Yeah, that's a very good analogy, actually, yeah.
You think, well, I quite like that. I'll hang on to that, because it was quite a nice bit of tune in there. That could develop into something one day. So I tell you what, why don't we have a listen? And then we'll have a listen to your Gear Geek in a minute. So this is David Hughes, Platform Zero, with Firmament, Part 4.
Only Human Radio.
Okay, that was Platform Zero with Firmament Part 4. I really loved that, David. That was a great song. Superb.
Thank you.
So again, you've got a Bandcamp account, haven't you?
Yes, I have. I think it's platformzero.bandcamp.com, if I remember correctly.
Brilliant. Okay, so if you want to listen to more David stuff, please do pop along to there and have a look at that. There is, I've listened to loads of David's stuff before. I know the quality of the stuff that you produce, so there'll be loads of great stuff on there. Now we've got it's that professional jingle as always, Andy. I'm going to stop going on about the awards. People are getting bored about that now. I mean, it has won 3, but you can
Don't we
mention
need a
it
new
too
one?
much. Do you know
Should
what?
we have a new one?
I'll see what I can do. I'll see what can be produced.
Right, okay.
But for the minute, we've got the old rusty one. So we'll use the old rusty one now. So here it is.
Andy's Gear Geek Corner.
What does that knob do? Oh. It is. It's Andy's Gear Geek Corner. So, Andy, I'm going to hand over to you for your surprise Gear Geek this week. That almost rhymes.
Yeah.
That almost could be the new jingle. Surprise Gear Geek this week.
Yeah, it could be. All right, moving on. Right, okay. This is a development. I don't actually know what David's Gear Geek is yet. So, David, what is your Gear Geek?
Okay, so this was actually quite a difficult decision to make, because I was sort of trying to think, okay, so what's a tool that I use as part of my creative process that is useful, that I think would be like a good thing to sort of, recommend to other people, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I finally settled on a plugin that I've been using for, I think I might have first got it around about 6 months ago, a plugin called Scalar. I don't know if you've heard of it at all.
Nope.
Okay, so...
I'll get Googling, Andy.
No, sorry, I should probably have passed some notes to you beforehand, I don't know, but...
Right. It's fine. No, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. David, what is Scalar?
Okay, so Scalar is a tool for people whose grasp of music theory might be best described as, shall we say, rudimentary. Actually, that's probably downplaying it a bit, but I mean...
So what does it actually do then?
So you can basically... It can do quite a few different things, but you can sort of select a particular scale, a particular musical key, and it will sort of suggest chords and scales that will fit with that key. And it can do quite a few nifty things. Like you can sort of set it to analyze MIDI input or audio input generally, so that if you don't know what key a piece of music is in, it will analyze it and tell you.
Right.
Right. Also,
so, for example, sorry, if you take a loop or a sample, a musical passage, can it work out what key that's in and what other things could possibly interact with it?
Yeah,
can it do things like that?
That's the intention, yes. Although I will kind of add the caveat that it is less good at analysing audio than it is at MIDI. Sometimes some effects will kind of confuse it a bit, but
okay.
It can tell you, like, it will tell you sort of all of the available chords in a particular key, and you can. So let's say, for example, that you select like the key of C major, and it will kind of tell you the obvious chords, like the basic chords of C major, like obviously C major, D minor, E minor, F major, etc. But then you can also go a bit deeper and explore more unusual chords that you might not necessarily be aware of.
You mean so go jazz?
You can go a bit jazz with it if you want to, yeah. And then also, in addition to that, you can explore like lots of musical scales that are also quite esoteric. You might sort of think to yourself like, well, my music is sort of starting to sound a bit kind of like conventional and dull, and and then sort of go off on one and sort of go like, right, okay, I'm going to work my way through this list of exotic scales and try to kind of work with this. But whenever I've done that, what tends to happen is, I'll pick something like, I don't know, like the Ionian augmented scale, and kind of go like, right, yeah, I'm going to work with that. But then after like messing around with it for half an hour, then it kind of occurs to you like, well, there's a reason why most Western popular music does not use this scale.
Right. Yeah.
Can I ask you a sort of...
Sorry, go on, Andy. Yeah.
Can I ask you just a slight technical question? So basically, you've got something going in A minor, A minor, A minor. You call upon Scalar to make a chord progression suggestion to you. What happens then? Does it make suggestions and then you preview the options, or how does that work?
That's exactly what I was going to ask, Andy. Yeah, that's what was confusing me then. I was just thinking, how does this actually then translate into doing something?
So do you get a list of things to choose and then you preview it and go, yeah, that's the one?
Okay, well, there are a couple of different ways that you can work with it. What I will tend to do is there's a setting called MIDI key lock that you can use. So you have your MIDI controller plugged into your laptop or whatever, and it will only accept MIDI input from keys that are in that particular scale. So if you hit the wrong note, then you don't get any sound at all. You can also,
that's a bit like sticky keys, I think.
Potentially, I'm not really certain what you.
On the iPad GarageBand, it'll give you what they call sticky keys, and it'll highlight the keys that you need to press to keep going with the right chord progressions. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, it's okay. And also, you can sort of you can program chord sequences into it, which you can then export as MIDI and sort of put in a different channel in the DAW that you're using.
So can you use it as a sequencer and a controller then? So if you've got a piece of hardware, say, and can you then set up the sequence inside the piece of software and then send that out as MIDI to control the hardware?
Yes, I imagine that you could do that. Yeah, you can use Ableton Live to control external instruments like that, but I've never done it myself. So the way that you are kind of basically, it does have some built-in synths that you can use to sort of experiment with on the channel that you have it loaded into, but what you're actually sort of expected to do is have it to control different virtual instruments, that you have loaded alongside it, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. It does.
So, I don't see any. So, I'm sure that you could also use it to control physical instruments. Yeah. One thing I will say is that I did kind of resist trying Scalar for ages. I kept seeing adverts for it on YouTube, and I kind of thought to myself, but surely that's cheating. Surely you should try and learn all of this yourself. But it is actually a really good learning tool. Because it will sort of teach you things about, you could sort of use it as a way of learning how to play scales on your keyboard, and use it that way sort of thing, so that in future you can call upon this knowledge without having to use this tool to hold your hand sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great way of looking at it, yeah.
And even on occasions where you have actually sort of used it to do some of the work for you in terms of composition, because you can use it to sort of auto-generate phrases in a particular key, for example. Well, you can export what it's generated and then edit it and sort of put your own personal touch on it, so I don't really think, I mean, maybe I'm rationalising it, but I don't really see it now as sort of cheating,
Well, it's not really, is it? As you say, it's a tool to help you learn and help you develop music, and there's lots of different bits of kit you could say are almost like cheating, but they're not at all.
There was a time when when the musicians' union used to say that synths were cheating, even if you could play particularly handy with the keyboard, that was classed as cheating back in the day. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel very low. I feel very loath to call anything cheating, really, to be honest.
Whatever
back in the day, they kind of
music.
back in the day they were opposed to synthesizers on the grounds that it would put actual musicians out of work.
Yeah, that's
they?
right.
It seems quaint
right.
to think about it now.
How very dare they.
yeah.
Well, that sounds like a fascinating piece of equipment, though. And I'm just looking it up on the internet there. I think it's about £50. I think. Am I right there, David? That sounds about right.
Yeah, thereabouts. I think when I bought it, there was a discount on it. I think they have offers on Plug-in Boutique from time to time, sort of thing. But there is a demo version that you can use and mess around with. I think you can actually get quite a bit done with the demo version, to be honest. But
well, I'll be downloading that tonight. So thank you very much for that. I'm having a good fiddle about with that. So that was fascinating, though. So that was, and again, it's called Scalar, was it? Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I think the latest version is Scalar 2, looking on the website.
That's the one. That's the one that I've got. Yeah.
Superb. David, thank you very much. That was a fascinating insight.
Thank you. That was ace.
And
Brilliant.
I must say, Andy, for somebody who didn't know what was coming up, masterfully, you worked your way around that. Like the true,
I think you did most of the work on that one.
like the true pro you are.
Yeah,
right.
of course.
Thank you very much, David. It was superb. Right, we've got a little bit of a gem coming up here. This really is a little bit of a beauty. This is one we were all just talking before the show and saying, have you heard this one? Because this really is a bit good. So go on, Andy, I'll let you just give us a little bit of an intro to this, if you would.
This is Marianne Holland, and it's a tune called The Shortest Straw. It is a remix. I'm going to attempt the pronunciation. I want to call it Dead Cousin Remix. Part of me wants to call it the Dead Cousin Remix, but choose. But it doesn't really matter. It's Marianne Holland. It's absolutely brilliant.
It's amazing.
It's really, really good. I was saying to you guys earlier that I've got a tune on tonight. It makes mine sound like it was made in a shed. This sounds absolutely brilliant. I don't know. It sounds so professionally recorded, and
It really does.
It's apart from the production, because I shouldn't really care about the production, but the structure and the sounds and the tune and everything.
And I tell you what,
cracking.
Marianne's
It's
voice.
brilliant.
Marianne's voice is astonishing. And I thought she sounded a bit like Kate Bush, and it's not often, because I was listening earlier on, I had my headphones on, and then I called my wife and I said, have a listen to this. And she's not really that interested, if I'm honest, in stuff I'm doing, really. But she said, oh, yeah, whatever, I'll come have a listen. And then plugged the headphones and said, well, just listen to this one. I said, does that not sound like Kate Bush to you? And she said, no. And then but after about a minute, she went, oh, God, yeah, it does actually, doesn't it? She said, this is actually very good. So it really is. It's amazing.
I would go as it's as good as Kate Bush. It did sound a little bit like her, but I just think that it was just as good as it. It's just a fabulous piece of music. What did you think, David?
Oh, right. Yeah, I liked it very much. In my notes here, I've written down, well, this is a bit special, isn't it?
Yeah.
I have to say, though, I didn't really... I didn't really notice the Kate Bush similarity so much, but what did occur to me was, well, a week or so ago I put on Blue Lines by Massive Attack for the first time in donkey's years, and as I was listening back to this, I kind of thought, this just sort of remind me in places of the vibe of some of the tracks on that album. I don't know if that's something anybody else picked up on, but...
Well,
there was... I'm going to go a little bit obscure now, because there was a model called Rosie Vayler. She made one album with the blokes from Steely Dan. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Steely Dan particularly. I want to like them, but just something about them, I just can't like them. Steely Dan made an album with this lady called Rosie Vayler, and the whole feel of it has got that... I'm probably talking about something that nobody's ever heard. It is a bit offbeat, but it had that Rosie Vayler, Steely Dan kind of grown-up pop feel about it, which is a great thing for me.
100%. I mean, it is an awesome tune. Is there anything else you want to add in, David, before we jump in and have a listen?
Not especially. Sorry.
That's all right. There's not much more to add because we have waxed lyrical about it. Let's have a listen instead. This is Marianne Holland. This is Short as Straw.
Picking
Only Human Radio.
How good was that? Marianne's voice is just amazing. We were saying before as well, because I don't know if anybody realises, but Marianne is Martin Eve's partner. So Martin Eve from Fourth Eden, and we have a song, I've ruined the surprise now, we have a song from Martin coming up a little bit later. But how much talent is in that household? And you were saying, Andy, have they done collaborative stuff? And I'm not honestly sure. They must have done. Yeah.
I think they have. We need Martin to... Hopefully Martin will listen to this when this goes out live, and Martin will be able to put in comments on the YouTube channel and put us straight and let us know what the collaboration is. I'm absolutely certain that they have.
Yeah.
But I just can't quite off the top of my head remember what it was, what the project was called.
Now I'm thinking about it, I think I might have a CD upstairs, which is the collaboration.
So have I.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I think he fired one over, didn't he, for us?
I think I have actually
just
got
remember.
that. Yeah. So
we'll have to get one of those on.
Oh, absolutely.
Get one of those tunes on.
Absolutely. I'm not going to start preempting Martin's song from later on. I was about to start doing that. Instead, what we'll do is we'll move on to the next song. And shall I bother doing it, Andy? I will. I'll do it anyway. As always, there's a pinnacle of a night. There's something that you look up to, like a star in the sky. It's like that little...
It's the highest mountain.
It is. There's that sparky star that sparkles a little bit brighter than all the others that you're just drawn to. And again, it's your song, Andy.
Ace. It's only it's only in tonight's lineup because I asked somebody else for a tune, but it didn't get here in time, so I bunged one of mine in.
Well, do you know what? I'm very glad you did, because to me, this had a slightly different sound to your normal songs to it, and I don't know whether it
well,
go on.
I've kind of been making a few bits like this recently. I don't know whether it's because it's Christmas or what, nostalgia or feeling of warmth and what have you. Herger, I think it's called. But it's sort of like a hergery type, warm, cuddly sort of music. I've been doing a bit of that recently.
I found it a little bit melancholic, actually. It made,
oh, did you?
Yeah, but in a kind of nice
That's how I like to do cuddles.
Because I think in pictures. That's the way I think about everything. I think about everything in pictures. It's just the way my mind works.
Yeah.
And when I was listening to this, I was very much looking out at a rainy, misty day through a steamed up window, feeling happy but sad. You know that afternoon where you're kind of content but not really happy, but you're looking out the window and you're thinking, I should be happy really. And that's the feeling this game.
Is there a woman in a red dress or anything?
No,
there usually is.
I didn't have that one in this one.
Right.
But it gave me a very you're right, a nostalgic feel, but at the same time a little bit of a melancholic feel as well. But I really, really enjoyed it. I mean, thoroughly enjoyed it. And I wrote down to it, next to it, I could listen to this a number of times, just endlessly, just quite happily listening to that.
It's a bit of a cheat, actually, because it's actually the tune that, the Only Human 2 ambient collection, chill out or whatever.
Yeah.
It's actually a newer version of the tune that I put out for that.
Right.
So what I did was I just plugged it into the my modular and added some plucks and some endlessly beautiful reverb to it, and I just kind of developed it from that tune that's on the compilation. Well, so it's a knockoff of an old tune. Really.
Well, it worked, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. Yeah. How did you find it, David?
Something that was something that struck me about this one was that I just love some of the sort of textures in the sound on this one. I sort of very much had a feeling of sort of like being transported somewhere else. You've sort of really kind of created quite a vivid soundscape, I would say.
Thank you.
I was kind of interested just to hear now that I'm afraid I didn't really recognise it from the Second Only Human compilation album, so I'm going to have to go back now and sort of, after the show, listen to that to sort of compare it, sort of thing.
It's basically exactly the same.
Just put a full stop there.
No, but... Right, I'm going to battle through this and actually tell you now. So the tune that's on the Only Human compilation is just the digitone, just the digitone. And this is just the digitone, but I fired out some MIDI into the modular, so it's triggering some extra notes and some extra triggers. So it's basically that same tune, but firing some MIDI to some extra kind of atmosphere. So all of the beautiful reverb, that's all extra.
So
Yes.
were you firing that MIDI out of the digitone, were you?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know you could do
you
that.
Can, you
Right.
can. Oh yeah. It's phenomenal thing.
I knew you could do that on the
Digitone.
Digitact, but I wasn't sure Digitone did that as well.
Same. It's the same. I think on the Digitact you've got 8 MIDI channels, and on the Digitone you've got 4. But all I did was copy and pasted some of the music that I created on the ordinary channels into the MIDI and just fired the same MIDI channels out to another instrument. That's all I did, and it worked out better. It was just a bit of a happy experiment, really, because I was thinking, actually, that's really nice. So,
Just out of
where
interest,
we're
if
at.
you were stuck at a motorway service station for the next 5 years, would you choose to keep the Digitone with you or the Digitact?
Digitone,
Really?
definitely, 100%,
That's
definitely.
Okay.
I love it. It's my absolute favourite, and it's taken about 18 months for me to love it.
Right.
Because it's FM,
Hmm.
and it's a bit of FM is a bit of a dark art. It's very difficult to understand. It's very difficult to make it sound nice. But once you start getting a little bit, the thing is, the Digitone it's like an easy version of FM,
Right.
but it's still not. It's still a bit tricky to get your head around it, and I'm just starting to get my head around it, and it's paying off now. But I absolutely love it, love it, love it.
Oh, right. Sounds complicated for me, that, though. So I think I might stick where I am with this.
Well,
This is Andy Peggs. This is Mother's Inc. That was Andy Pegg's Mother's Inc. Really enjoyed that, Andy. Genuinely did. As I was saying to you before, it's yeah, I think that's up there in my top 3 songs you've ever done. That I'd say, really nice. Now,
I've only done 4.
I know. I didn't like the other one. Now we do have something extra special coming up now, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
This is Yosi Horikawa. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So do you want to just talk us into this a little bit, Andy? This is amazing.
Well, yeah, it's. Can I introduce the what do you call it? The jingle.
Go for it.
Yeah. So this is
Andy's Master Blaster.
time for tea.
Mum, I'm doing a jingle.
And as I know, and as you've already said, it's Yosi Horikawa. Now I've had a bit of a help. This is the Master Blaster. I've had a bit of a helping hand this week, this fortnight, because this was punted at me by Martin Eve once again. He's had a bit of an impact on tonight's show, but he said, "Why don't you try this for you? Why don't you try one of my mate Yossi's tunes for your Master Blaster?" So I gave it a listen. I thought, yeah, we've got to have that on. So I don't know a great deal about this guy. All I do know is I absolutely love the tune. I like the name of it as well.
Yeah.
And I'm giving it, I don't know, it's a bit like a Hollywood handshake, but I'm giving this bass line of the night.
It is.
Absolutely love the bass line.
Do you know, I wrote down, I just don't know how to describe this. Because I just found it was just so great. But I said, I can't put this in a box. I can't do anything with this at all. This is just great. The only thing I could write down was, it feels a little bit like an unnerving dream. That's the only thing I could kind of think to it, but in a very enjoyable way.
Yeah.
It's
do you know what I really like? What I really like is the way it starts, because it starts off with a sort of found sound kind of ambience, doesn't it? Sort of like it might be in a park or in a street or something like that. That's what it sounds like to me anyway. And then it gradually sort of almost seamlessly introduces the music into this sort of introductory found sound. I love the way it starts. It's sort of like just gradually appears from this ambient sound. Love it. Absolutely cracking.
How do you find it, David?
Yeah, I enjoyed this very much. As I was listening to it, I was thinking to myself that the percussion and the rhythm kind of reminded me of something that I couldn't quite put my finger on. Maybe I'll figure it out at some point. But I was kind of a bit intrigued, so I kind of Googled Yosi after listening to this, and I found like a couple of interesting things about him. There was a video on YouTube I found called something like "Why This Japanese Producer Creates Music from DIY Sounds."
Oh, really?
I don't know whether either of you saw that.
No.
But it sort of shows
no.
It sort of shows you a bit of his creative technique, and he is kind of like sort of really into just sort of recording the sounds of him hitting various household objects and doing things with the sounds that he's
You could
made.
kind of hear that at the start of the song, couldn't you? There's a lot of homemade sampling in there.
And just is it? Sorry, David. Is it sort of like heavy manipulated sound? So it's like a raw acoustic sound that then is heavily manipulated. Is that how it works?
Well, I'm not 100% certain. It didn't really. I didn't. The video was about 20 minutes long, and I only had time to watch a bit of it. You know, I might watch the rest of it later, but it didn't. The bit I saw didn't really go into that much detail about the entirety of his creative process. But you know, just to potentially go off on a bit of a tangent, it did remind me, watching this video of him doing this, of something that I once read on the sleeve notes of a CD of music made by the BBC Radiophonic Workshop. And it sort of said that in the early days of the BBC Radiophonic Workshop, a lot of what they would do would be they'd just sort of, record themselves hitting various things and sort of then slowing it down, applying lots of distortion and other effects and just creating really random sounds. And, I kind of remember thinking at the time, like, whoa, imagine being able to get paid to do that. That would be amazing.
That would be, yeah. Do you know, I had tickets to see the Radiophonic Workshop a few years ago in Sheffield. Me and Phil Goodall were going to go. But it turns out that I didn't look on the calendar when I booked the tickets and I didn't realise that I was going to somebody's wedding on the day that I bought tickets for the BBC Radiophonic Workshop. And me and
Did you go anyway?
No, I had to go to the wedding. I had to ring Phil up and say I couldn't go either.
That reminds me of something that reminds me of something stupid that I once did. I managed to get a ticket to see Kraftwerk in Liverpool a few years ago.
No way.
I paid about like 80 quid for it, but I managed to double book myself. I also I got my dates mixed up, and I'd also arranged to go on holiday with some friends, and then I was a bit like, but do I go and see Kraftwerk, or do I go
see Kraftwerk
on this holiday that we've booked?
Go and see Kraftwerk.
Yeah. Which one did you do?
Well, I didn't want to let my friends down.
Oh, I'd let them down.
But I felt awful about it, and also they were really strict with the tickets. Like they actually sort of had your name on the ticket, and it was like non-transferable, and so I was not able to sell it on either. So
was it the 3D one?
Yes, it was. Yes.
Oh wow, that would have been amazing.
Yes, I know. It still hurts.
Sort of rub it in. Right, okay, so I'll tell you what, shall we have a listen? This is an astonishing piece of music, it really is, and this is why it's Andy's Master Blaster. This is Yosi Horikawa, do hope I pronounced that correctly, Summer in 1987. That was Yosi Horikawa with Summer in 1987. That really was absolutely superb. So you said you found that video on YouTube, David. Andy? Do you know if there's anywhere else we can listen to some of Yossi's music?
Do you know? In true Only Human Radio style, there's been absolutely very little preparation. So I'm getting round to say no.
That's all right. I'll tell you what we'll do is we'll stick it in the notes underneath the video, and then we'll not do it.
Yeah, let's do that again.
Yeah.
Let's make promises and not keep them.
Okay. I'm sure there'll be something on Bandcamp or somewhere.
Well, I can. Yeah. I can give you some information about this because I still have the tab open on my browser from when I googled him earlier.
Look at this, a prepared guest. This is amazing.
He does. He is on SoundCloud and does have a Bandcamp as well as being on Instagram. So it looks like there's various places online where you can find him.
Brilliant. Now I tell you what we've got. It is unbelievably, it's our last song.
Yeah.
But what? And I know I say this. And it sounds like I repeat myself every single week and say, "What's the last song you've chosen?"
That's because you are.
Well, it probably is. I should just copy and paste each week's thing and just put the same one of me in it. But this is genuinely a brilliant piece of music. Now I'm a bit of a fan anyway, so it's Martin Eve from Fourth Eden, and I've just got a real synergy with Martin's music. It is my type of music. It's the stuff I like.
Yes, it is.
But this is just great. So I think I'm right in saying, because I'm pretty sure this is what he said, I think he's used the same sample as Moby used in, I can't remember which song it was, but he's used a different part of the sample.
I'm trying to remember, did we not discuss this somewhere? Was there not something that Martin wrote about this? I'm trying to find the bit of text,
probably was.
The relevant bit of text.
And as Andy said, typical Only Human fashion, we've done a fantastic piece of research beforehand, and we'll stick it in the comments below the video like the rest of it.
What I was kind of struck by was just how professional, how slick this sort of sounded, and it is the sort of thing where, like, if somebody had played it to me, I would probably have been like, oh, is this some Moby track from the 90s that I was, like, unaware of, if I wasn't really kind of listening to it, like, terribly closely. Obviously, like, Martin's put his own sort of stamp on it, sort of thing. But
I know, but it's the level of professionalism.
It's kind of uncanny. Yeah. Yes, exactly, yeah. And incidentally, I've managed to find Martin's post on Facebook where he described where he got the sample from, if you're interested.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so he says here, I watched an episode of the cyberpunk dystopian series called Altered Carbon, and this strangely familiar music came on. I recognised the singer. It was a blues singer called Vera Hall. The song's called Death Have Mercy, who Moby sampled for his song on the Play album called Natural Blues.
That's it.
So, I haven't...
Because this is called Natural Ways, isn't it?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, rather than starting to get into a ramble, which we very nearly did then, why don't we have a listen? And then we can just have a little brief chat about it afterwards and have a rundown of what we listened to tonight. This is Martin Eve, Fourth Eden. Enjoy this. This is Natural Ways.
Oh, death have mercy. Oh, death have mercy. Oh, death have mercy. Oh, death have mercy. I was a flower in my bloom. Make that coming down too soon. Trust my eyes and stretch my limbs. This is the way that death began.
That was Fourth Eden, Natural Ways. What a banger to end the night with. And it is a proper banger as well. There's a real good bit of pace that builds up inside that too.
Yeah.
So thoroughly enjoyed that. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure tonight. We've had David Hughes on. He's an only human hero. So it's been great talking to you tonight, David.
Thank you.
And learning
Pleasure
about
to be
learning about the piece of software which I've forgotten the name of already. What was it?
Scalar.
Thank you.
Scalar.
Which does sound quite good, actually. I am definitely going to get the demo of that downloaded tonight.
You need to write it down though, because you won't remember what it is.
I'll do that right this second. Now look at that, Scalar. There we go, Scalar 2, £49. I won't be paying that. There we go. I'll just do the demo. Perfect. All right. Okay. So yes, thank you very much, Dave. It's been lovely listening to your tunes. Lovely chatting to you as always.
Been brilliant.
We have also had an amazing array of music on tonight. Do you want to give us the rundown, Andy, of what we've been having
I will
on tonight?
do. Okay, so it's our mate Etchasketch, Rob Dixon with Spicy Whirl and his Polyend Tracker. Then we've got Found Object, Pete from Leicester and his Beat Wave with Sakamoto. Number 3, it was David's tune, Platform 0, Firmament Part 4 from his Bandcamp album Reality Construct. We had a lovely chat with David about Scalar. That's Scalar. Then tune 4, we had Marianne Holland, The Shortest Straw, the Dead Cousin remix.
Amazing.
Then I was on next, Mother's Inc. Number 6 was Yosi Horikawa, Summer in 1987, Baseline of the Night. And last but definitely not least, another absolute stonker from Fourth Eden, Martin Eve with Natural Ways.
And a genuinely amazing set of music again there tonight. So again, as we mentioned earlier on, we'd love to play anybody's music that wants to send it in. This isn't an exclusive set of people that we want to play in here. It's a totally inclusive set of people. So even if you're a beginner, if you're doing anything for the first time, send your song in. We'd love to listen to it. We would genuinely love to play it. So if you want to send it in to Andy, what's the email address?
It's onlyhumanradio@gmail.com.
Brilliant. So whiz it into there, or just send us a message, and then we can do it through a WeTransfer or whatever. But anyway, send us a message. We would genuinely love to play your songs.
It's genuinely one of our favourite parts of doing this show is actually meeting new people and getting tunes fired over. I personally love it, so keep them coming.
Absolutely. So again, David, thank you so much. We really enjoyed talking to you tonight.
Yeah, you're welcome. Pleasure.
And thank you everybody for tuning in again to episode 1 of season 2. How exciting, Andy! Lord only knows what will happen in the future episodes of season 2. The extra features that we'll have, the new jingles. Oh, good Lord, it's exciting.
I think if it was going to happen, it would have happened for the first episode.
Well,
But
let's see, eh? Let's see what's going to happen.
Oh, can I just tell you one thing that I did have a request for more Gary Newman. So
really,
I don't know if that'll ever. Yeah.
Good God, who was that from? Well, Gary was chatting earlier that he was a bit disappointed that we haven't played him since. So maybe he'll be on the next episode. You never ever know.
All right.
So I'll tell you what, Andy, do you want to give us a big goodbye?
Goodbye.
That's not bad. David Hughes.
Bye.
That's excellent. Cheerio. Enjoy 2021. Looking forward to seeing you on the next show.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Only Human Radio.